We're counting down the 10 wildest Appalachian mysteries where folklore, hard ground, and strange records collide. These mountains are old. They hold secrets that don't always make sense on a map. Sometimes it's a light that pulses where no car can go. Sometimes it's a legal battle that started with a pig and ended in the Supreme Court. And sometimes it's a creature that stops showing up exactly when a bridge falls down. The surface looks like quiet ridges and empty hollows. But underneath, the ground is full of clues. We have court files, surveyor journals, and archaeological digs that challenge what we think we know. This list doesn't just repeat the campfire stories. It looks at the evidence that is still sitting there right now. The tunnels are still dark, the statues are still heavy, and the lights are still moving. The number one spot goes to the mystery that left the biggest mark on a whole town. Let's begin with number 10. Fact number 10, hidden creek beds and moving walls. A shallow creek looks harmless in the summer. Water slides over stones and disappears into the trees. It seems like a place to fish or cool off. But the ground reality in Moonshine country was much different. Records show these creek bends worked like moving walls for a massive illegal network. The water masked tracks, the sound-covered voices, and the clinking of metal. That's wild, because a simple creek doubled as both cover and a road. Operators picked spots where water curved sharply around banks. Those curves broke lines of sight from the hills above, which means a creek bend became a working room without walls. Evidence shows these spots stayed in use for years. Families used the terrain to hide heat and smoke. They used the water to cool the mash. But it gets crazier when you look at how they moved the product. Steep hills usually slow people down. They tire out arms and knees. Yet pack animals change that math completely. Evidence suggests mules hauled loads where carts failed. Corn liquor moved uphill without engines. That's insane because the slope became an asset. Steep ground stopped pursuers on foot. Animals knew the paths already, so the system scaled up quietly. More weight moved per trip. More ground got covered per night. Records from raids note animals found near still sites standing quiet in the dark. And the result? A corn crop became portable money. Farmers turned surplus corn into clear spirit. It kept longer. It traded easier. That system stayed active during hard years. And the landscape still holds those scars today. Hikers cross former work zones right now without knowing what used to happen in that quiet bend. Fact number 9, newspaper giants and the sales engine. We often think of newspapers as recording history, but in the late 1800s they were fighting for sales, and nothing sold papers like a giant coming out of the ground. Reports from small-town papers across Appalachia and the Midwest described oversized bones found during digging projects. The surface reads like a major biological discovery, but the hidden layer shows a sales engine at work. Railroads needed straight lines, canals needed deep cuts, crews sliced through ridges and hit burial mounds. Bones appeared. Then the editors went to work. A femur became longer than a man's arm, which means little without a scale. Yet readers filled in the blanks. 7-foot skeletons became 12-foot giants by the next reprint. That's wild. A real excavation produced bones, competitive papers amplified the size, sales rose. It happened in Ohio during canal work. It happened in Indiana on rail cuts. It happened in Kentucky when river floods washed out bluffs. Editors printed heights like 9 or 10 feet. But modern analysis of those descriptions indicates soil impressions, not full skeletons. Here's the thing. A body decomposes in the ground. The soil around it packs tight. When the bone dissolves, it leaves a hollow mold. If you measure the mold, it looks bigger than the bone was. An editor looking for a headline doesn't care about soil mechanics. They care about giant found. The penalty of not knowing this pattern is believing the impossible anatomy. Some reports in Illinois described skulls with teeth like a horse. That sounds terrifying, yet records show mastodon teeth were common finds in fields. Evidence suggests misidentification fueled the copy, so megafauna fossils fed human stories. The result was a network of giant tales that linked states together. The present relevance sits in the archives. You can still read these articles today. They frame how people view the mounds even now. The mounds are still there. The bones were real, but the giants were mostly ink. Fact number 8, Laurel thickets and the wild man. A narrow hollow can look empty from the road, then it holds a hidden life. Stories in these mountains often start with a hunter seeing movement in thick brush, or a dog bolting toward a cave mouth at dusk. The tale lands on one label, a wild man. It sounds like a monster story, but the landscape suggests something else. Records from the 1800s often describe figures in rags. They describe long hair and dirt-caked skin. They describe a fast run through the brush. That fits a scared person. It fits a hungry person. It also fits a person who avoids towns at all costs. The landscape makes that possible. Rhododendron grows like a wall in these valleys. Locals call it Laurel hell. It can hide a man standing 10 feet away. Steep slopes keep trails few and narrow, which means a single bend can hide a camp. So what happened? A person could move into a hollow and stay quiet. The result is weeks, with no sightings. Then one sudden sighting triggers panic talk. That is the penalty. It turns a hermit into a monster. Living that way changes how a person looks. Hair grows long, clothes rip, skin darkens from sun and dirt. In low light, that look feeds. The half-beast label fast. An 1877 report from North Carolina describes miners seeing a wild man in Globe Valley. The surface detail is extreme. The report describes a figure about 6 feet 5 inches tall. That's taller than most door frames. It describes a strange head shape, but then the report links the figure to a man named Thomas Foley. Records say he fled society and lived in the wild for 2 years. He survived in rough country. That chain matters. It turns monster into recluse. It also shows how the land helps the legend. Thick leaves block depth clues. Rhododendron blocks the ground line. That makes height guesses shaky, and it is still happening today with modern sightings. People still report tall figures. Some might be people living rough, some might be bears standing upright, but the thickets remain, and they still swallow sound and sight right now. Fact number 7, silver mines and the vanishing mapmaker. A legend can collapse if the main person never existed. That is the easy way out. But the story of Swift's silver mine has a paper trail that fights back. A journal linked to Jonathan Swift describes silver found in 1760. It describes annual trips and mining until 1769. Then the trail stops. The story says Swift went blind. That 9-year window is a big clue. It suggests repeated travel to the same zone. It suggests a route used again and again, and that repeat travel matters in rough land. A trail gets worn, a camp spot gets reused, a hidden cache spot gets remembered. The surface story is about silver bars. The deeper story is about logistics. Getting heavy metal out means planned movement. Records show deeds linked to Swift can fix a person in place and time. They show patterns of movement, but it gets crazier when you look at the land warrants. In 1788, a man named John Filson filed a treasury warrant for 1,000 acres. That size is around 1.6 square miles. The warrant language is described as, to include a silver mine. It also says the place was improved about 17 years earlier. That points back to the Swift timeline. Filson wasn't just a random guy, he was a famous mapmaker and promoter. The warrant points to Powell's Valley and a specific Martin's Cabin. That pairing is a major reveal. It points to a named valley and a known reference spot. The result is a claim that feels like a map pin. But then the story adds the strangest twist. Filson is said to have vanished into the wilderness after filing. He was never seen again. That sequence creates a high-stakes chain. Paper points to place. Place pulls a man into the woods. Then the man disappears. The warrant remains a reason to search today. The valley is still there. The ridges are still steep. And the legend lives in that gap between the legal paper and the wild ground. Fact number 6. The heavy statue. With 2 heads, most artifacts fit a pattern. A pot looks like other pots. A tool looks like other tools. But the soapstone statue found near Murphy, North Carolina, refuses to fit in. Number 6 starts with a simple map view. 2 rivers meet in Murphy. One is the Valley River. One is the Hiwassee. That meeting point matters because rivers funnel travel and trade. Accounts place a major stone find near that confluence. The statue sits inside the Cherokee County Historical Museum today. On the surface, it looks like just another old item in a case. But the size changes the entire feel. Accounts describe it as 3 to 4 feet tall. That is the height of a kitchen table. And the weight is described as about 300 to 400 pounds. That is the weight of a big, upright piano. So it is not a small figurine. It is a heavy stone presence, which means it had to be moved with serious effort. The statue shows 2 standing figures joined together. One is taller, one is shorter. That upright pose is unusual in the regional record. Many known carved forms are seated or kneeling, so an upright pair does not match the common pattern. The crazy part is the material. Soapstone is a soft rock. It can be carved and pecked. That softness allows an artist to shape broad surfaces, but it also stains easily from iron-rich soil, so the statue's look can shift as it sits in the ground. The discovery timeline is messy. It was unearthed in the early 1800s. Some say 1841. It was plowed up by a farmer clearing land. That detail ties the object to work, not science. It turns the land itself into an accidental archive, and because it is unprecedented, it creates a penalty. We can't file it away easily. It remains a one-off. It sits there today, heavy and silent, challenging everyone who looks at it to explain where it came from. Fact number 5. The tunnel that proved the legend. The song about John Henry is famous, but the geography that made the story possible is even wilder. Railroads didn't pick sites for the view. They picked the cheapest line through hard land. In West Virginia, the Greenbrier River snakes and turns back on itself. That means track builders faced a choice. Follow every bend and lose time, or cut through rock and save miles. Number 5 is the Lewis Tunnel at Big Bend Mountain. The name tells the story. The mountain stands like a wall between 2 parts of the river. A tunnel saves a long detour. Records describe the Lewis Tunnel as 5,065 feet long. That is about 1 mile. It's close to walking from one end of a small town to the other. But this mile sits inside solid rock. That means daylight vanishes, air turns still, sound bounces, and every tool stroke matters. A mile-long bore is not just digging. It is hauling rock out, day after day. This scale sets the stakes for the contest in the legend. A drill that saves even a few feet per hour matters huge money on a bore this long. Research points to steam drill trials during this era, around 1870. That detail matters because it turns a drill into a specific machine. A steam drill needs water, fuel, and a boiler. It means pipes and maintenance. It means breakdowns. So the job site becomes a battle between the old way and the new way. Hand crews still mattered because the early machines were fragile. That mix fits the legend's tension perfectly. Records show work crews tied to the penitentiary system. They show the dates match the rail boom. So the payoff is simple. The legend stops, drifting, and pins itself to a place. The tunnel is still there today. It is still a dark cut through Big Bend Mountain, and that engineered hole is the real reason the story happened at all. Fact number 4, the lights that survived. The flood. A ridgeline can look dead at night. Trees turn into black shapes. The sky turns flat. But at Brown Mountain, a light shows up. It hangs for a moment. It pulses like a slow heartbeat. Then it fades. People keep trying to file these lights away as simple tricks. Headlights, trains, campfires. But the story keeps slipping loose. And number 4 is the reason why. In 1922, a U.S. Geological Survey report pointed toward car and train lights. That sounds neat. It gives people a clean box to put the mystery in. But a 1916 flood enters the story like a wrecking ball. The flood destroyed roads and tracks near the area. It washed out transport routes. So the obvious light sources took a massive hit, and yet the lights kept showing up. That is the key clash. If lights appear after roads are gone, then the headlights theory has a hole in it. It creates a gap. It pushes the discussion into rarer effects. Cherokee witnesses called the lights grieving widow torches. That nickname signals repeat behavior. People don't name a one-time flash. They name the thing that returns. And the behavior is strange. Cameras in 2016 captured pulsing lights that stayed in one spot. They didn't move sideways like a plane or a car. They sat and pulsed. That suggests a fixed origin. It points toward ground-linked energy, or air layers. The ridge is a long screen. It can block valleys. It can bend lines of sight. But the same spot, pulsing forces harder explanations. It is still happening on clear nights. The flood proved the lights weren't just cars, and the ridge remains an active test bench for something we still don't fully understand. Fact number 3, the feud that changed the Supreme Court. The Hatfield-McCoy feud sounds like a backwoods brawl. 2 families, 2 states, lots of guns. But the record trail shows it was a border war that forced the highest court in the land to make a rule. Records describe a conflict running from 1863 to 1891. That is 28 years, longer than most careers. It anchored to the tug of war between West Virginia and Kentucky. A state line looks like a clean border on paper, but people do not move like ink. After a New Year's raid in 1888 burned the McCoy home, things escalated. Kentucky raiders crossed into West Virginia. They grabbed a Hatfield ally named Pliant Man. This wasn't just a fight. It was a kidnapping across state lines. That move created a legal knot. A habeas corpus challenge was filed. Basically, the question was, can a state try a man if they stole him from another state? That question went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court in Mon versus Justice. That is a massive leap in scale. A family feud landed on the bench in Washington. The court ruled 80-1. They said yes, Kentucky could try him. The method of capture did not cancel the jurisdiction. That's insane. It means a feud event shaped a rule about courts and power that lawyers still study. It also raises the stakes. The feud left bodies and burned homes. Archaeologists in 2014 dug up the charred remains of the McCoy cabin. They found nails and ceramics from the fire. So the physical proof is there. But the legal footprint is even bigger. The feud didn't just end in the hills, it ended in the law books, and that ruling is still on the shelf right now. Fact number 2. The witch with the witness list. Most ghost stories collapse into one person's word. I saw it, they say, and you have to trust them. But the Bell Witch story in Tennessee is different. It is built on a list of witnesses that reads like a town census. The story is set between 1817 and 1821. That tight window adds pressure. It starts with a farm sighting, a creature in the cornfield. Then it moves inside. Knocks, scratches, a voice. That's where it gets wild. The voice, called Kate, didn't just whisper. It held conversations, and the retellings say neighbors came to check, not just one or two, but groups. Doctors show up in the reports, ministers show up, even a general with an entourage is said to have visited. The result is a many eyes argument. If it was a prank, would it fool a whole community for 4 years? The story claims the entity broke an engagement between Betsy Bell and her fiancé. It claims it hounded John Bell to his death. It mentions a mysterious vial of poison found at his bedside. These aren't just spooky moments. They are social events. The paper trail claim is huge here. The story mentions family journals and affidavits. Later books, like the 1894 Authenticated History, printed these accounts. It turns a farm story into a document story. The penalty is believing it's just folklore. The reward is seeing the chain of custody. Written records lock details in place. They show how a story changes or stays the same. And the name Bell Witch still points to a real farm in Robertson County. The witnesses are long gone, but their names are still attached to the file. Fact number 1. The pattern that stopped cold. The number 1 spot goes to the mystery that followed the strictest rules. The Mothman story in Point Pleasant isn't scary because of what the creature looked like. It's scary because of how consistent it was. It started in November 1966. It ended in December 1967. Exactly 13 months. The land around Point Pleasant looks flat, but the sightings clustered near the old TNT plant. That site held concrete storage bunkers. It was a maze of shadows and echoes. Witnesses didn't just see a monster, they saw the same monster, 7 feet tall, gray skin, wide wings, red eyes, and the movement was specific. It rose straight up like a helicopter, no flapping. It chased cars at 100 miles per hour. That detail appears in multiple police reports. Drivers arrived in town shaken. These weren't just kids, they were minors, firefighters, and couples. Over 100 reports filed in just over a year. That consistency is rare in folklore. Usually details drift. Here, they stayed tight. Then came the bridge. The Silver Bridge crossed the Ohio River. On December 15, 1967, it collapsed during rush hour. 46 people died. It was a mechanical failure, a flaw in a chain. But the timing shook the town. After the bridge fell, the sightings stopped. They dropped to 0. No fade out, just silence. That sudden end changed how people remembered the whole year. The creature turned from a nuisance into an omen. The gap is still there today. The bunkers remain. The river still flows past the town. But the pattern held. 13 months of noise, 1 tragedy, and then quiet. You cannot make this up. The story stays alive because the structure is so perfect. It refuses to break apart. And that is why it remains the wildest mystery in the hills.